Star Wars Squadrons. Whether you have a sick gaming rig or just a base game console, you need to buy this game. EA has wrote the wrongs of Star Wars Battlefront 2. There are no loot boxes anywhere to be seen in this fantastic single player game, and not to mention it has a pretty decent multiplayer, free unlockables, and good AI bot battles to boot, which you don't see in games very often. I really wish more companies would bring that back. Now to start us off, we're going to be talking about the controls, because if you have bad controls, the game's dead in the water anyway. Being a first-person only flight sim, the controls were a bit odd, but after playing around with some of the settings and tweaking them a little bit here and there, I had no problems. It felt right at home. Speaking of home, the customization of your starfighter is awesome. You can definitely make it your starfighter instead of a basic color swap like some other games. Now for the real meat of Squadrons, the gameplay. As we already covered, the controls are great once you tweak them to your liking. The missions have great pacing, perfect amount of build-up, suspense and action, and the option to switch up your engines, armor, weapons is fantastic, giving you the ability to tune your ship for the mission at hand and your personal playstyle, which I really enjoy. The atmosphere itself is great. Moving around the hangar and talking to your teammates and commanders before each mission is an awesome touch. And to hear the perspective of your teammates and their reasoning for fighting is great. I always like it when games and movies give a different spin and perspective on every situation. Nice to know some Star Wars games out there still have a soul. With that being said, let's move on to your squad mates. You jump between the Empire and the Rebellion, and I personally like the Empire a little more. Not only because the TIE Fighter is my favorite, but also I love seeing the perspective of the Empire. Now for Titan Squadron, which is the squadron of the Empire, we have Varco Gray, squadron leader, typical squad leader, but someone who has been in the war quite a long time. Focused, keeps everyone else in line, and likable. Not really much to say about him. Next we have Havana Vonreg, the bulldog of the group. Angry and brutal, but very deadly. When you're first introduced to Titan Squad, everyone warns you to stay out of Vonreg's way. One of my favorites, and I love whenever she chimes in during a mission.
Don't annoy Vonreg.
And my favorite, Shen. Skilled, isn't afraid to get a little rough, and he hates the rebels. He's also banged up from combat and crashes that he is mostly cybernetic. His helmet never comes off due to his life support. Kind of reminds me of someone else.
Good dog. Another.
Oh yeah, Frank Horrigan from Fallout, which he is also one of my favorite characters in the Fallout series.
You didn't do nothing here except seal your own death warrants.
But moving on. Probably the most interesting of the bunch is Rella Sol, a good pilot, definitely someone who can see the good in the Empire. She always brings up the problems with the Empire and how to fix them. A very interesting perspective for sure.
If only Emperor Palpatine hadn't dissolved the Imperial Senate. At least then, senators, like my parents, could have maintained order after Endor.
Last, but definitely not least, Commander Carroll. Experienced, ruthless, determined. Definitely someone you don't want to be on the wrong side of. Now switching gears over to the New Republic, we have Vanguard Squadron. For squad leader, we have Kira Kova, who goes by Gunny, calm, cool, and level-headed. Overall, a good squadron leader. Next, we have Gracella Vitara Sinir. Goes by Grace, comes from an Empire family that helps make the TIE Fighters, so she is very passionate about the cause of the New Republic. Then we have Frisk Tist, I think that's how you say it, goes by Frisk. A smuggler with a price on his head, so he has been shacked up with the good guys just for protection. A class clown of all sorts, but also a keen sense of when something's not right. I mean, we always have that one guy in Star Wars that has a bad feeling about this. Let's not forget Keo Vinzi was a pro starship racer when it comes to speed and maneuverability. She's got it where it counts. And to top it all off, we have Commander Lyndon Javes. ex-Imperial. Don't worry, we'll get to that X part in a second. He decided after Alderaan that the Empire was not the good guys like he thought. A real tactician and no slouch of a pilot either. With both teams covered, let's dive right into the story. You start off as a pilot for the Empire on a mission to 4-Star Haven to find and eliminate rebel refugees. After getting there via hyperspace jump and scanning ships looking for the rebels and shooting some harmless ships because, you know, you have to establish. Then you find the rebels and dogfight with some X-Wings. Soon after taking out the X-Wings, you pursue the refugees' transports. And then out of nowhere, your teammate Lyndon Javes disables both yours and Carol's ship. That's when he betrays the Empire and defects to the rebels.
Son of a bitch!
After flipping every switch to reactivate your TIE fighter, you soon set your sights on Lyndon. Speeding through the tunnel, both Lyndon and the rebels trap you and escape. And then just like that, in an instant, we switch gears to jump to playing as the rebels after a hyperspace jump and blasting underneath a Star Destroyer. You take out some TIEs while taking tips from Lyndon on how to disable Empire ships and tactics. You make a daring hyperspace jump back to base. And with all that, I'll have to stop the story there, not to give away too much info. Overall, a great Star Wars game. It definitely feels like Star Wars games have a soul again. And with how fun it is to play and the high replayability scores bonus points in my book. Can't wait to see what Disney or EA does next now that the Star Wars games are headed in the right direction. I'm not saying EA's totally redeemed themselves, but they're definitely putting their sights in the right direction this time around. And thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave a like or a comment if you have an idea for a future video. This is the Vintage Gaming Channel signing off. See you next time.
I think it's time for Jack to let her rip.